Good morning, Paul Case here. I was just sitting down here watching Brock from Rock Hill Farms and thought I'd do another session of math and ranching. This won't take very long, but a lot of people will talk today about break-evens on buying calves and keeping them, feeding them for a period of time, and then selling them, and what you got to have to make that work. But nobody says too much about cows, so today I'm going to talk about cow break-evens. To break even on a cow, it's a little more complicated to figure because you've got to feed her for a year to get a calf out of her. And it's actually longer than that, I realize, and there's cost involved that I don't have written down here. But just for everybody that thinks cattle ranchers are making bukus of money, the only ones that are the ones that are getting all their inputs on the cheap. So here's what I've come up for cow break-evens, and now this is kind of on a typical year, and this is per cow. And you've got to factor in the cost of a cow because she did cost you something. And then you can divide that by the years of expected service for years you think she'll have a calf and come up with a number. Right now, a $900 bred cow would be pretty typical around here. There's some bringing $1,000, some bringing $1,400, or some bringing $800. So $900 a cow is a pretty expected cost. You figure she might have a calf for 10 years for you. You come up with a cost of $90, which is probably pretty cheap. Excuse me. And then you've got to get in there what she eats. And so for the summertime, you're going to have her on grass. You can't do very good at making cows eat hay year round. But if you have her on grass for the summertime, in my area, between 3 and 5 acres per cow-calf unit will work really good. Now, I came up with a cost of those 3 acres of being what they would produce, which as far as bales of hay that I make would be about 7 bales of hay. That's what I came up with for a cost. Sometimes you'll make more than that, which actually makes your costs of production worth more. But there's years it'll make less than that and you have to feed more hay. Now that's just what it costs to keep her on grass for a year or for a summer, the time when grass is growing and until it runs out or gets snow covered in the early winter or fall. And then you got to figure what's going to take her. We talked about what a cow will eat per day. You can go back and look at that in another math in ranching. But you're going to have 5 bales of hay in her to keep her for the winter. If you have 5 months of winter, and sometimes we do have 5 months of winter. This year, we started feeding in August because it got too dry. So we actually are going to have a winter, and we've received some moisture, so there will be grass in the spring probably. So we're going to have a winter that's more like, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7 months instead of 5, but 5 is pretty typical. And at those bales of hay, which I don't think you can find any in my area, but you can find it a little farther out for about $60 a bale. So 5 bales is $60. The 7 bales, that 3 acres might produce $420. So you come down here and you figure out, hey, the cost to keep that cow for a year is $810. Now, I didn't write it down here, but of the calves that I bought from my sons, the steers was on one group of them, they weighed 500, which was a miracle, and they was worth $2. So the steers was 1,000. The steers on the other group was 900 and something. The heifers ranged from 820, I believe, to 930. And so if you figure that up real quick, ain't nobody getting rich in agriculture. Oh, by the way, it doesn't matter who you are. You need to go take care of them cows once a day, every day. They got to be checked on. Fence maintenance. There's a lot of inputs to that I don't have figured in there. And all of those would actually make the expenses higher, which means the rancher makes less money. A lot of the time, the nicer a place the guy has, the less money he's making in ranching. But anyway, there are those of us who work hard for not a lot of money. In order for a person to make a really nice living at only coming in around $100 a head profit on his cattle, he would need to have more than 100 head, wouldn't he? And I don't know too many single operators around in my area that have more than 100 head. I used to at one time have more than 100 head. Anyway, that's just some numbers for people to think about. That's true to the date to right now. This is 2020, December of 2022. And there are some costs here. These costs you can't control always because these numbers fluctuate. The cost of a cow, if you go by a cow, it's going to maybe different, higher or lower. The cost of what it takes to produce this grass may be higher or lower depending on the taxes in your area, how much rainfall you've received, fertilizer costs, which has been crazy all over the board in the last 3 years. I guess just 2 years ago, I bought fertilizer for under $500 a ton. Right now, it's a little over $700. Last spring, it was over $1,200 a ton here in my area, which makes no sense. Cost of diesel or gasoline to drive out there and to check them every day, or to use your truck to put out hay for them. All these things change, and that'll change these numbers. However, when I was in college 30 years ago, when I learned how to do these, figure up these break-evens, they had told us that it was a pretty typical thing that a cow costs you $1 a day to keep. And at that time, we were getting about $400 for our steer calves when we sold them in the fall. So the margins were just as tight then as they are now, and our inputs were lower was the biggest thing, and of course we didn't get as much for our cattle. Next time we'll probably talk about the what it makes you to wean and to background your calves, keep them 90, 120 days or even longer before you sell them. And so, hey, thanks for tuning in. This was another lesson in math in ranching. We'll catch you on the next one.